Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Hey, we're great. We're great. We're excited about this.
Good.
I know I was educated this morning by Joseph Massey. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an English designer. That I'm supposed to greet people in the time zone that they're in, not where I'm in.
Good morning.
It is definitely
That's
morning.
right. Good morning. So,
Hi.
great. Well, I'm gonna tell you what. Why don't you guys start off, introduce yourselves? I can't imagine after this week that people don't know who you guys are, but just want to give you guys a chance to do that.
Sure. I'm Ryan, and that's
Gracie.
Gracie.
Yeah.
And we have a 1 foot height difference.
Yes.
So
Maybe I should come down.
Ryan's 6'8" and I'm 5'9". So sorry.
I can be here for now, but it's going to burn in a few minutes. So I'll stay here, make it a little easier for people to see.
All right, that's awesome. That's totally fine. So, I know. So, in case people haven't heard the episode yet, how many acres do you grow roses on?
We have a 10-acre farm, and we probably use about 7 to 8 of the acres
Sure.
for farming.
Sure.
And we have a barn for processing, which takes up quite a bit of space. So we try to use as much of the property as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that because I know there's lots of people who want your roses. So you definitely want to maximize that. So have you started shipping yet?
We just started yesterday. We due to the situation in the world right now, we can
Sure.
only have a very small amount of staff in our bar. Our outdoor staff has been working nonstop and they're fine outside, but our indoor staff, we have to wait until the end of this month, first of next month, to really have our full production team in the barn. So we have started shipping, but we're just kind of shipping like the most time pertinent orders right now. And then
Right.
once we can have our staff, it takes about 20 to 25 people in our barn on any Monday through Friday to get all of our orders out. So
Wow.
we can't do that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. So schedule wise, where does that look like? I think, is it next week you can start doing that, or what's your timetable?
I'm sorry, you cut out
You
a
cut
little
out
bit.
one time.
Were you asking about next
That's
week?
okay. Yeah, I saw that too.
That's what I kind of gathered.
Yeah, when do you think you're going to have everybody back to ship? Full steam.
We're going to slowly bring them on starting next week and just ramp up. And
For Mother's Day.
Mother's Day will be our big week. We'll try to get as many people and just as we can in there with keeping everyone safe and possible. If we have to bring out some people to work outside, maybe we'll do that. But we'll see how much we can get in there.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, all right. Well, good. Well, I know everybody's dying to see roses and see what you guys have going on. I know yesterday I saw it looked like a golf cart or a gator or something. It was full of roses.
Yeah.
I know you were excited to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a long time. Our season last year was cut short due to Mother Nature, which sometimes is, and so it was a much longer winter than expected for us. So to see those first blooms has been quite amazing. And I remember just last week we get a random bloom here and there, and last week I saw an Evelyn that was just fully bloomed and open, and I picked it up and smelled it, and I gave it to Gracie, and it was just one of those moments like, this is why we do it. And it was just a magical scent and a beautiful bloom, and got us excited for the season to come.
Yeah.
I know. So what kind of roses do you grow there? Because I know it's like people talk about garden roses and we think about certain ones that we see out of South America, but what you do is so different. And I want people to kind of get an idea what that means.
So our roses are actual like plants that you could buy and you could have in your backyard. If people knew where to find them, which we've helped educate a lot of people on where to buy these type of rose bushes. So they're like the David Austin English roses, or they're Floribundas that have a beautiful petal count that's rich and has ruffled edges. Like we try to pick roses out that have a unique, like distinct shape in general. So as well as for scent, we pick them for scent, for color, and for shape. So
and for shipping.
That
has to be a
yeah.
requirement.
So we've gone through a lot of varieties that we bought and ended up not keeping because they didn't ship well.
Yeah. At our height, I think we had about 250 varieties or 150 varieties.
150, yeah.
And now we're down to about 50 to 60 that we
narrow
use for
down.
shipping.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that, I mean, obviously in your situation, if it doesn't ship well, it's not even worth entertaining. That's sort of the final leg of the journey. I know we used to have an expression, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So
Exactly. We have a couple of varieties in our field that we don't ship, but we don't have the heart to give them the shovel because they're so beautiful. There are a couple of white varieties, and they just don't want to be put in a box whatsoever. But they take up about 500 holes, and we could obviously replace those 500 holes with something better, but we just don't want to kill them and get rid of them.
Not yet.
Not at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can get attached to them easily. Somebody's asking a question about how long do they last normally when you cut them?
So they last from the time that we cut them like pretty much the day of or the day before they get sent to the customer, and they go into our cooler and they're 5 and 7 days. There's a little bit of the client needs to not they need to change the water and trim the stems and make sure they're not sitting in a room that's 85 degrees. So they kind of last as long as the environment that they're in.
You kind of broke up there for a second. So if everything is perfect, how long?
I'd say 5 to 7 days.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So amazing. Well, we'd love to get a tour. I don't know. Do you feel like your signal is good enough that we could do that? I mean,
I think we should be all right.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? Let me turn it off of Wi-Fi. It'll go off.
Yeah.
I think we're still connected to our Wi-Fi, which might provide some of the glitches, but maybe once we get disconnected, we'll be better.
Yeah, and even if you have to come back, that's fine. If you have to, if something happens, it's all good. It's live TV.
Turn off.
You don't.
All
Okay.
right. You there?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I think it's still trying to process. There we go. Yeah, that looks clearer. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to introduce them to some of our guys that work here?
How do I turn around right there? Is it going to flip?
Yeah.
Flip. Okay. So this is a new section that we're planting. We're just finishing up. We had some roses here last year that we were trialing that we either moved to a different area on the farm or we just gave them the shovel or put them in a bucket. But so we're finished planting right here, and they're getting rid of the weeds with the shovels. We don't use Roundup. We just shovel the weeds, which has become a problem, and I will show you the fabric in a little bit too. But so they're going to shovel these, and then they're going to mark them and plant. We have some honey de Dijon that are going in here, all the way down into that field over there.
These little guys right here are roses that we propagated ourselves at our farm. So we won't cut from those for a couple of years, but we did grow those ourselves.
That's amazing.
The little babies. Yeah.
And if I can introduce some people, that's Juan.
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 Excuse me. Juan is a master of all trades. He is a legend in our town, in our valley here. So we are so fortunate to have him.
This is his third season with us.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was one of our first hires, and we're gonna keep him as long as we can. And that's Rufino, who's this is his second season with us. And then we have hiding back there is Jaime, who is also his second season. Oh, sorry, second season with us. And
this is great.
So it's we're fortunate to have all these great workers. It's certainly hard to find talented people and we couldn't do this without them. So
That's amazing.
and then, so this is our field. I can't, let me see how I can show this, but I can take you on a little tour.
So it doesn't look like much is blooming yet, but they are. They're just not flushing. They're going to start flushing about next week, but we're still cutting thousands of roses every day. Just can't tell from the plants yet.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it. But and I can show you what the roses look like when we cut them, so it'll make it easier to explain why it doesn't look like there's much out here, but we cut them before they're open.
Well, I know it's interesting. People often think, oh, I want to go visit a flower farm and see all the pretty flowers. And I always have to explain, I'm like, well, if there's a lot of flowers in the field, that's either because they are behind or they passed their peak, or, you know, usually you don't want flowers in the field because that's your money sitting there. So.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah, so these were just cut. Fermin cut these
right now.
Just right now, and he's loading up the gator until maybe a few more buckets, and then he'll bring them into our cooler.
I could show them what these are.
Sure.
So this is David Austin's Winchester Cathedral. It's a cabbage rose. We can show you what it looks like open on the plant in a second, but the buds start out red, and then as the rose opens, they turn white. The flower turns white. It's pure white, except there are a few little mutants that are pink. That plant tends to do that sometimes. So this is the same thing. This is David Austin's Golden Celebration, which is probably the best smelling rose in commercial production right now. Wow. Beautiful rose, perfect like sepia yellow color. And then this is the illustrious Honey Dijon. Here, Ryan, want to show them that?
Sure.
The florists love this rose. Can't grow enough of it. Back here is some Connie Sandstorm, which is a rose bred from Honey Dijon, and that's the one that we did those little seedlings of that we showed you a minute ago. Our friend actually bred that rose, and we have a license to grow it for her.
That's amazing.
And then over here is Pure Perfume, and this is a beautiful cabbage rose too. Ryan will show you one that's on the plant that's open, but this is a really popular white rose, and it looks really tiny right now, but they open up like this.
Wow.
This is a good example. You can see these sepals right here. This is the indicator as to when to cut them. We don't want them more than this, because if they're more open in the box, they're going to bruise, they're going to shatter. But as soon as these sepals right here start to open up, then they're ready, prime cutting.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I don't think I ever knew that. So you want them to be sort of at that stage where they're not fully down, but they're away from the petal.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And different. Let me see if you can. Yeah. So they're all. You can see.
Yeah.
They're just down right there.
It's like a little collar around it. They go down.
So here we're right in the Winchester. So that was the one that started with the red buds, and then opens up. We can see and show you down here.
So here's a Winchester. It's very fluffy, peony-like, I would say. Wow. It's like our fluffiest cloud-like rose, and it has an interesting scent. It's almost like clean linen. It's just like it's not, you wouldn't get that much rose. You kind of get this like clean scent. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a really pretty one, and these plants we just put in last fall, and they're doing really, really well already.
Oh, look at all the flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, this section started first for one of the first sections. So they're blooming, and these are being cut from right now. And a lot
of the ones that are blooming are kind of stems that we wouldn't cut. They're lower on the plant, and they'll have a shorter stem length. The ones up on the top of the plant will bloom later. The way that roses bloom, lower stems bloom first, and then upper stems bloom later. So,
and when they're in clusters, you can see there's 4 stems or 4 blooms on this one stem. The one in the middle is always going to bloom first,
and bigger.
So you can see it's a little further ahead than the others. So our guys, unless we really need that stem to be cut, the guys will let that one bloom first, and then we'll deadhead it, and then we have we can ship a stem with 3 blooms, which I'm sure everyone would prefer than a stem with 1 bloom.
Well, sure. So let me make sure. So when that middle one starts to like open, you said you deadhead that?
Sometimes we do.
Sometimes, okay.
So right there, here's an example of one that's a little further along. There's 2 buds on the side, and then the one in the middle. This one's the one in the middle is going to bloom first, as you can tell. And unless we really need this stem to for an order, then we'll tell the guys just to let this bloom, and then we can deadhead it, and then the other 2 will bloom together, and they'll have a stem with 2 blooms.
So this is called the terminal bud. The terminal bud is always going to be bigger than the side blooms, but especially this time of year in the spring, all of the blooms are really big because the plants have so much energy stored up from the winter. So it's not necessarily something we would do in the height of summer when the plants are getting a little hot and a little worked. But right now we can give customers, and a lot of them like that. So just a little something we do.
Wow, that's amazing. Someone's asking a question. Are you there?
Yeah,
okay,
we're here.
Just making sure. They're wondering if they can request longer stems if they need them for an event.
We cut the stems as long as the plant will allow. Our stems are usually about 10 to 12 inches long, and that's what is common for an actual plant.
Yeah.
So a lot of the greenhouse grown roses, those are a little they're bred for those long stems. It's usually 1 stem per plant, and they make it long. Ours,
well, then certain varieties produce longer stems. So Winchester Cathedral doesn't necessarily produce like the longest stems in the world, but Tranquility, which is, we can walk up to Tranquility. Sure. Tranquility is.
Let's say hi to Fermin first.
Oh, yeah.
Fermin.
He's walking away.
Oh, I think
we'll
he's
get him
listening
later.
to music.
Tranquility is like a sister rose to Winchester Cathedral, and Tranquility is as a plant is 5 times bigger than Winchester Cathedral. So Tranquility throws very, very long arms. So we're able to cut longer stems on those. I think one of the complexities when you get into having custom stem lengths is that these floral boxes that we order from the floral supply, the box manufacturers, they're only so wide and so long. And we have a certain way that we have to pack our roses in so that they don't get damaged in shipping. So if we're doing like all these different custom stem lengths, then you have a ton of different custom packing jobs.
Right.
And that gets tricky.
Right.
Too.
And I'm sure somebody could request, maybe, say, hey, if you have a longer white, then I can do I'd prefer a longer than a shorter. And but you can't, you can only do what the rose produces. That makes sense.
Exactly. We just have to stay within kind of the plant's ability and then our ability to properly ship them. Here, honey, show them this. So this is the Pure Perfume rose that we showed you the little buds of.
Oh, wow.
So that's what she opens up to. And she's slightly blush on the inside. Are we seeing her okay?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to block some sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got a question.
Sure.
How close are the shrubs like planted together?
Everything is 4 feet to the center.
And so I'm seeing them now in spring. I can't imagine what they're like in 6 months. Can you even walk through there?
Oh, well, no.
We'll show you.
Every year they get more mature and they're going to get bigger, and it's going to be more challenging for the guys not to walk through here without getting holes in their clothes. So
here's Tranquility. This is a rose much like Winchester. It's another David Austin. I can find an open bloom to show you.
There's one over there. Oh, wait. There's one on the Gracie to your left.
Here's one.
Oh, okay.
So, want to bring it down?
Yeah.
So this rose looks almost like Winchester, and it has much longer stem length. Very similar rose, though. A little bit hardier. This one's lasts a little longer in the vase.
And you can see this was planted last year. And you can see the amount of buds on there is quite hardy.
Wow. Wow.
And these get about 5 feet tall by fall, and they're completely touching. You can't even get through here. It's crazy.
So when you go to harvest a stem, do you keep that pruning aspect in mind, because you know that you've also got to try to manage the size of the material, of the plant material, the shrubs?
Sure, Fermin knows not to cut every stem on every plant.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we try to only do a few stems per plant, if possible, just to keep it healthy and keep it growing and not just hack away.
Right. And we also use our petals for, we have partners that use our petals for different products. So those petals, we don't have to take stem length. We just deadhead the bloom, and we still are able to use this for our business. So we leave all that stem length on the plant. So that's good.
Yeah, that keeps feeding the plant. Wow, that's incredible. Now, okay, so I've been to Ecuador, and I've seen like roses that we may take out of a box here versus roses on the actual shrubs in the field. And, you know, often the roses open up, of course, on the plant, like what you're holding, so much. I mean, they're just incredible. So when you cut your roses and you ship them to somebody, can they expect for them to open like what you're seeing there? Or is it like a little bit smaller version of that? Or
I think it's pretty similar. I mean, the florists that we work with, we don't get complaints about the roses not opening up. I don't think so.
And we'll bring them into our house, and they'll still open up.
Yeah, they'll open up.
Mighty large.
The colors are more washed out when they open on the plant, because of course the sun washes the roses out. So if anything, they are hardier, and they're more vibrant and deeper in color and scent when they open up off the plant, because the sun is like sucking a lot of that out.
Sure.
When it's on. So, and these are like two of our white varieties. This is Bolero. There's little tiny plants down there. It's kind of a dwarf plant. It doesn't really ever get that big. And then this is Tranquility, and they look pretty similar, but they're very different.
So which flower's which?
This one's Tranquility from David Austin, and this is Bolero from Star Roses.
Wow.
And this is a Floribunda, and this is an English rose.
Wow.
This is also Bolero from the same plant.
Amazing.
One is more blush and one is more white.
So we're getting a question that might be interesting for some people. If they're trying to get roses to open for an event, how far in advance should they get them? Because these open pretty quick, don't they?
Yeah, they do, especially when they go into the box. So we ship them for a Saturday wedding. We ship our roses on Wednesday for Thursday arrival. The florist process the roses. They put them in their cooler for a little while to let them, harden off and get all their water. And then start designing with them on Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Amazing. I know a lot of these roses are so different, that people don't, it's not like some roses that take days to open. But that's the beauty of this product, I think.
Yeah. They open faster. They definitely have a shorter vase life. So the more fragrance a rose has, the shorter the vase life. The petals are full of fragrance. There's more science to it than that, but so you're kind of trading where roses are bred for stem length and longevity, right? I've heard florists say like run them over with a bus and like run them over and they're fine. Right. They're fine. They're just super hardy. Our roses, like, they are definitely more like fleeting beauties, but they have that very like heirloom, vintage feel, very, a lot of fragrance, and just that every single stem, like this is here again, this is the same plant, right? And every stem is different. So there is that little bit of that blush hue or not, you know, it's like you get just like this more
Unique.
kind of like unique and not as like cloned feeling of the
Right.
product, because it's garden grown, field grown.
Yeah. And that's just part of having sort of heirloom varieties too.
Yeah, it's just, and all of these roses here are bred. They're modern reproductions, or modern versions of heirloom roses. So most of our roses are David Austin roses. All of his roses are bred from very, very, very hundreds of year old varieties. So that's their roots.
Well, Julio says you have the best garden roses ever.
Oh, we love Julio. He's our best friend.
So I know earlier somebody was asking a question about the landscape fabric. Did you put it down? You put it down first, then plant, or the other way around?
We wish. So we moved in here a little over 2 years ago, and when we moved in, we hired a farming contractor to till all of these fields of turf. It was all turf in here, beautiful turf.
It was an equestrian property.
And the previous owners had spent tens of thousands of dollars on pasture grass, and just, it was beautiful if that's what you were looking for. But of course, we didn't want pasture grass. So we hired a farming contractor to come in and rip all of that out. And at the time, I had this like idea that I wanted this like romantic English garden and have it all mulched. Well, mulch doesn't block weeds.
Yeah.
And mulch doesn't block Bermuda grass, which runs under the ground, as we all know. So we struggled really for 2 years with weeds in this farm, and spent so much money on extra labor just for weeding. And we decided last summer, we just said, we're done with the weeds. We were done dealing with all the pests that weeds harbor. If you have weeds in your rose garden, you're going to have more disease on your plants, way more pests inside your blooms that you have to ultimately spray for, and you can't be an organic grower. So like the first step for us to becoming organic growers was to get rid of the weeds. The weeds are just a host for everything bad. And as soon as we did that, we started last year in some of our most disease and pest prone roses last summer. And as soon as we did, literally like within weeks, we saw that those plants were so much healthier. They were producing so many more roses. They were less stressed. They weren't competing for fertilizer with the weeds, because weeds will always they'll always win over a rose bush for fertilizer and water. So our plants are so much healthier. So that's what that's all about. It's not the prettiest, but it's producing prettier roses, and it's saving us tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year in labor just for weeds. That you literally can't, you finish one area weeding and move to another, and by the time you finish the next area, the weeds are back in the area before. That's how bad it is.
So crazy question. I don't know if, I know here in the South where it gets so blazing hot in the summer, sometimes I get concerned about the heat from that black fabric. Is that a concern, or how do you mitigate that?
I don't think, we're not really concerned about it because we water so heavily. We're not like, we water multiple times a week, and we water deep and long. Ultimately, the roots are going to be kept cool because we water so frequently. These plants get between 15 and 20 gallons of water, and it's non-potable. It's landscape water, just so people don't hate.
I understand.
It's on an ag line, so they're getting a lot of water, and the roots are really cool from all that water.
That makes sense. That's great. Well, I know we had one person, I think it was Sabrina and company, said that they signed up. They heard about you on the podcast, and they signed up to get an account, so they were excited. And another friend of mine, Sybil, has said that she ordered your May Day gift package, which I thought was a beautiful package that you guys put together. What a fun idea.
Yeah, we have a lot of retail subscribers that get our roses weekly or every other week, and they've expressed interest in kind of more like a ready-made kit, like a vase or a frog and the whole thing, instead of just a bouquet that they put in water. Some people just want the roses, And so we did this May Day, and we launched like, I think with 100 units, and they sold out immediately. And we've kept adding like 25 more units at a time. And we were just so surprised that people want it. So we're working on our second thing. And we're doing, I won't say who yet, but we're going to be doing two like kind of DIY kits with two different florists as well in May and in June. So we're excited about that.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Well, it's a fun idea. Okay, so on the farm right now, are you kind of in the middle of the field? Or where are you?
We're
up by the street. Let's walk. We're by our street, which might be a little loud.
The end of the top of the field. You can kind of see the fence line there.
Sure.
We have 7 palms growing on our fence. So these are the roses here that don't ship well. It's this rose. It's called Clouds of Glory from Jackson and Perkins. It's so amazing, though. We just don't have the heart. Some of our local florists in LA, they get this rose from us at the flower market, and it just has the most beautiful fragrance, and it opens up. If I can find one that's open, they're just starting to bloom, as you can tell. I mean, it's like this big, and it literally looks like just a cloud.
There's one down there on the left.
Yeah, it's pretty far down. So this is that one of those ones that doesn't ship well, but we love it. So we've let her keep her real estate. Okay, so here's one. It's not even open yet.
Oh my gosh.
It still has petals in here. I mean, still probably got 50 or 60 petals to unfurl.
There's one right there.
Where is it?
Somebody's asking what the name was again.
Clouds of Glory.
Clouds of Glory. And it's a Jackson or Perkins?
That's correct.
It's a hybrid tea, but as you can see, it kind of has, it's a hybrid tea, but it doesn't have that like leggy kind of all over the place growth like a lot of hybrid teas have. So that's her with her stamens open. And then this is her before she's opened up all the way.
And I wish you could smell this because it is amazing.
Yeah. We got to come up with smell-o-vision.
Yes.
I know. She's a real beauty. So we don't have the heart. We might dig these up this winter and move them up by our house and use them as landscape. Our old house, before we bought our ranch, we had these lining our entire perimeter of our property. We were on a corner lot, and we had about 300 of them just like lining our property. And we left them for the new owners, but hopefully they've kept them because they're really, really special.
So I know you said earlier, and you said on the podcast, that you have a couple customers that you sell petals to, or you sell the dead-headed flowers. I mean, is that one way that you're able to recoup some additional revenue from those?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's so many blooms. I mean, millions of blooms out here that we're not going to touch because for whether it's too many stems on the one plant, the stems are too short, it's not the perfect rose. There's so much out here that would just go to waste otherwise.
Wow.
So we fortunately partnered with some people that are using our petals, and it's definitely a good way to use them.
And we've also begun making our own rose water, rose hydrosol. That's kind of a project Ryan's working on. So
We're near the street.
Sorry, we're near the street. But all right, we'll take you on a walk over here, and then I have to go to a
Do you want to show the Pope?
doctor's appointment.
Sure.
But Ryan's going to continue. This is the Pope John Paul rose. I always recommend this rose to home gardeners. It's so beautiful. It's pure white, and it has the most amazing citrusy. It smells like you're putting your nose into like a fresh summer lemon. Literally, like it's just so beautiful.
Okay, so
one bouquet of the Pope John Paul rose will make your whole house smell good. And this is another one that we can't ship. The petals are just too. She doesn't want to go in a box. Let's just say that. So we share these roses with our local florists, and they love them. Look how she opened, or he rather, he opens. He just has this like gorgeous center, and just these like the unfurling is just beautiful.
So this one you said is Pope John Paul.
Pope John Paul rose from Weeks Roses.
From Weeks, okay.
And we've got them kind of surrounding the front of our fence line and down the side of our property. Again, this is just one that we didn't have the heart to give the shovel because it's such a great rose, but we don't sell many of them. We use them for petals though with our partners.
Sure.
So
I know that I know we've had some people ask about buying them, and you said you can't ship them. If somebody was really, 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 really desperate and wanted them, they said, would you ship them if they took the risk? Like there was no credits possible?
They'll bruise.
Yeah, it wouldn't be worth it.
They'll bruise.
Okay.
It's not worth it. It's just not worth like the florist paying us several $100s, right, for a box of roses that we know aren't gonna survive the trip.
Yeah, it used to be frustrating. So, no, I get it.
Yeah. So these are like little. So we could show them really quickly. This is Litchfield Angel from David Austin. It's always our last rose to bloom. So the guys just planted these literally like 2 days ago. This little guy here, they planted a bunch. And then all of these up here are like 5-year-old plants. And then behind Ryan, those are like all 5-year-old plants too. You can see how quickly they grow. They're loaded in blooms. They're just not there yet, but they will be.
Sure. So how much farther behind are they?
A couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a week or two.
And you can see how tall they are next to me.
I can't see on the camera. Yeah.
So very full, very tall, very happy. This is a great rose.
Wow.
I had one. Oh, I see one blooming actually. Let me pick it.
I know we've had a few more questions come in.
She's not pretty. I can't pick her.
I understand. I think one of the questions I saw was, how do you store the petals for your petal part? You know, people that you're selling the flower heads to.
We probably shouldn't say the exact things because our partner is the one that came up with the way.
I understand. Okay.
However, I will say that
there's a little bit of magic involved.
There's a little bit of magic involved. Yeah. We don't want to upset our partner, but yeah, they are fresh. They're freshly taken off the plants and they're immediately stored like the day they come off the plants.
I understand. So. Ryan, that was very diplomatic. Good job.
Thank you.
We planted this yesterday. They planted this new little line of distant drums here. See these little babies?
I love that rose.
These come from Otto and Sons, and then these are some of our established ones, and they're starting to bloom right now.
They are ready to pop.
Yep.
So, question.
There's about 600 plants, 600 distant drums right here. Then we have another field of distant drums with about 800.
I just love that rose.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, it's like really pastel when it's open.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's closed, you know, it's like, did I get a fuchsia rose? Right? Like you see the difference. So we have to educate the consumer that when they get a bouquet from us that may say it's a blush bouquet, this rose is going to stand out like a sore thumb until it opens. But when it opens, you're going to get this beautiful peach to blush bloom.
Grab that one behind you to show the difference, because this is from the same plant.
So you can see how blushy and peachy and beautiful it gets, and it comes from literally like a fuchsia colored bloom. So we're trying to educate the consumer too that these roses really take a transformation as they open. They're not what they look like, you know, they're not gonna just look like this. They're gonna go to this. And that's part of the process, I think, just with telling people about your business. And this is a whole different thing. Typically, like when people buy roses from like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, they are what you see, right? So when you pick up that cellophane thing of roses, looks like a small head or like a head like this, right? They don't do anything from there. But ours do open and they go from that dark color to this beautiful light color. So
yeah, it's an amazing. I know I've actually grown a few of those myself. Nothing on the scale, obviously, that you do. But it's like the rose every day is a different rose, and the way it fades out is so amazingly beautiful.
Here's a pretty one. I want to show them.
Yeah.
So here's kind of like all the phases. So here it is in a bud as it's just starting to crack, and here's a day later where those sepals are a little further down than here, right? Yeah. And then this is about a day further when it's still got those darker fuchsia colors. And then here is when you get into the pastel. So, yeah, it's just very transformative. So we're trying to make some more like YouTube videos and like consumer education on our website just to show people what our roses really do, and what makes them different from conventional roses.
Sure. We had somebody ask about Coco Locos. Are you? I don't know where they are on the property in relation to where you are.
Yeah, they're right next to the distant drums. We have about 3 different locations on our property of Coco Loco patches, and each one has about 700, 800 bushes.
Wow. Well, Gracie, I know Gracie has to go. Is she still there?
Yeah,
she's here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gracie, I know you need to go. So thank you so much, and I know Ryan's gonna carry on the torch, but good luck. And it's such a pleasure. Everyone has been thrilled about the podcast episode, and I know we've had tons of great feedback. So anyway, thank you so much.
I realized a couple of my friends said, "Oh my gosh, it was so funny when you said I used to work in healthcare." Ew. And I was like, "Oh no, with the world the way it is now, I didn't mean it like that." My sister and my dad are both physicians. They're in medicine. I'm just like, I'm a squeamy, like I don't deal with like blood and guts. I was on the marketing end of healthcare. So I was like, I don't want anybody to think I don't respect healthcare. But my friends were laughing at me. Anyway, this is one of our patches of Coco Loco, and Ryan's gonna talk with everybody, and I have to go to an appointment.
All right. Well, be safe. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, and we're sending you a box of roses today.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll do an unboxing tomorrow.
So you'll get it tomorrow.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so here's one of our cocoa fields. And Coco Loco is one of those that, depending on the weather, is going to change color quite a bit.
Really?
Oh yeah. So right now, you can see, okay, so here's a good one down here. You can see that it's got that nice color to it. But if it gets hot, it's going to turn kind of a lavender color. And then when it's warmer, it's more of a rich, warm color. So that's one that it's our most popular rose by far for the florists. Mm-hmm. That's the trend right now, that the weddings all like that nude color. And sometimes during the summer, it's a little difficult for us because we really just got to watch the heat and make sure that they're doing all right. But we can't control the color on it, but we can just inform the florist of it's a tad more of one shade than the other right now. And a lot of them know that this rose in particular, we have a couple roses here that are kind of those outliers of extreme changes of colors, but it's a great rose.
Yeah.
So
I know it's definitely a popular one.
We can't grow enough of them.
Well,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I know it's a popular one, and I'm really glad you mentioned that about the temperature, because I know that, when you get roses from different places, they don't always look the same. And you never know why that is. And I know it can vary, whether it's fertilizer or, regiments or, distance from the sun or whatever, but to know that it's temperature related, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And our other one, which I'll show you in a little while, that's Munstead Wood, which is ideally it's a David Austin, and ideally in England it's going to be this nice rich warm Merlot color, but here when it gets a little hotter it kind of turns to a fuchsia. So it's they order it looking for, we get most orders for that in the fall for the autumn weddings, and it's hopefully by then it returns to its color. So in the summer it's a little more unpredictable. But here we are in, what is this, Carding Mill. So this is one of our Carding Mill patches. We have 2. We set up our field, so you saw the driveway in the middle of our field. And when we first moved here, the ones on the other side of the field that we were just previously at, for the most part, those were transplanted. The ones on the side over there, they were transplanted from our old farm in Moore Park, when we moved here. And then these on this side are new ones that we purchased when we moved to this farm. So we kind of set it up that they would mirror each other. So when one side was blooming, we can kind of control the other side. So we delay it. So there's always a constant inventory of roses and not everything flushing at once and us sitting around for 2 weeks saying, okay, now what do we do?
Right.
So we try our best. In the spring, everything's just going to go off right now for the most part. But as the season goes on, we kind of control the bloom cycles in the different sections.
Well, I know on the episode, Gracie mentioned some of that because it helps you have more consistent inventory.
Exactly.
Which is one of those things that, you know, is really important for people to understand that, you know, you guys are trying to have a high volume of product available every single week. In the popular wedding and event colors especially, but also in a myriad of other colors, because there's a lot of other really great, amazing colors out there in garden roses. So, yeah. So
absolutely.
when do you think you'll start shipping Coco Loco? Somebody asked that question.
I think I know we started shipping some yesterday. We just started. But, you know, again, until we get our full staff back, it's not going to be a high production. But we have started shipping. If roses are blooming right now, we're shipping.
Okay.
As you can see, the fields that I'm walking through right now, these were pruned last. We started pruning on the other side. It took us about a month and a half to prune these 6 acres of roses. So it's these are a little further behind. This is one of my favorite roses, which isn't blooming yet. This is Francis Mayon, and it's just this beautiful blush, extremely citrus fragrant, and these plants will be taller than me by June, and they're just prolific bloomers. They're constantly going, and they just amazing. And then right next
these
to
will
it
all be
is,
these will all be blooming by Mother's Day.
oh, these will be blooming.
Yeah, you're breaking up for me. I don't know if you're breaking up for other people a little bit. We'll make our way maybe back.
Can you hear me?
I heard that.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stay. Is this better?
I'm hearing you better. It's still a little fuzzy picture.
Okay, I can try to go in. Maybe go over to this other field that might have better.
Yeah, I know this is.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you pretty good, but I know
Okay.
the picture's still a little blurry. I know for everybody who is following us, I know sometimes this is a challenge of getting tours on a farm because they don't always have the best signal. But we have to use our imagination just a little bit. But I think we can bear with a little bit. So.
Okay. I have a few bars now, so hopefully that's better. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you better. Sure.
Is the screen
okay? It is better than it was for sure.
Okay. All right. So this is again Francis Mayon, which was on the other side, which we were just at. And you asked when these are going to be blooming. So on this plant, this one will be blooming later this week.
Okay. You can see the sepals
this one
up.
Sepals are still up. We're getting a lot of heat this week. It's going to be 87,
oh my gosh,
close to 90 for a few days. So I expect them really to really open up in the next few days. So just different stages. We got some that are going to be blooming next week, some in 2 weeks on that plant. And you can see, now this one has already bloomed, but you can see the size of this bloom once it opens is just spectacular. And it just opens up. You can see the stamens in there. And it's just extremely fragrant citrus smell. It's unbelievable.
We had somebody from Miami ask a question about availability. And I know on our episode, Gracie mentioned that usually your season winds down in December and then picks back up in April like we are now. Is that? Okay.
Yeah, that's generally because we have to prune our roses, give them a little nap. And we're going to try, and our season, because for the first few years we were strictly wholesale, and so we were dealing with weddings, and that's kind of the majority of the weddings happen from April through December. So we start pruning in like right after New Year's, and then we'll finish up in mid-February, and then they'll start blooming again in right about now.
Wow.
Right about now in mid-April.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's
what variety is that?
Okay, so this is Desdemona, which I believe is a newer Austin, maybe a few years old. I'm not sure when they released this one, but we had this at our old farm in Moore Park, and it was these up here that we transplanted, and then these, you can't really tell the size difference, but some down here are we planted last year. But it's got this sweet, fragrant smell to it, just a nice big blooms that it opens up to. You can see on my hand what they look like, and then it comes with clusters, and you can see. Can you see? Yeah. You can see the different stages of the petal or the blooms. This one's much farther behind. This one and this one are going to bloom soon, and then you can just see. Just because they're blooming here doesn't mean that we're going to use those blooms. Obviously, like we were saying earlier, we're probably going to deadhead those and store them, and then let the others bloom.
Amazing. So we had somebody ask earlier, what was the best white to ship? And I know that you have, I mean, you have several varieties that are great whites to ship. So is there one that's better than the others, or are they all pretty much equal?
I like the durability of Tranquility.
Okay.
Pure Perfume. Tranquility is going to have, depending on it's going to be a pure white, and sometimes it has a little bit of cream to it or a little bit of a ivory hue. Mm-hmm. The Pure Perfume can have either pure white or maybe a little hint of blush on it. They're strong. And Bolero is also a great one that has more blush on the tips and then it fades. Those were the Bolero is what Gracie was showing you earlier, comparing the two that had the blush in it. One had blush and one was pure white.
Amazing.
From the same plant.
Wow.
And then Winchester as well.
Okay, that's great. Well, Ryan, I know that in a few minutes, Instagram's going to kick us off. We have like an hour limit. Anything coming up that you want to tell us about? Anything going on? I know that Gracie and you have extended to our listeners. If you listen to the podcast, you can go to our website and click the link. And for new wholesale customers, like you use them in your wedding business or your flower shops or whatever, that you can get a one-time like 20% discount with a 5-bunch minimum for, I think, through May 16th. But I don't know if you have anything else going on. I know we have lots of other people watching that aren't just, that you want to mention.
Sure. No, we're just excited to, we feel so fortunate. It's such a crazy world right now. And we have so many people that have been kind to us, and we have our retail business, and we're shipping dozen stems or bouquets, and it's just great that we're able to do that, and we feel so fortunate that we're considered an essential business in farming and able to continue on. So we're just continuing on and just being grateful for the way things are going right now.
Well, thank you so much for this time. And I know that it's a challenge to have to sit there and hold the phone while you walk around and navigate the signals and everything. So thank you for your time. Thank Gracie for us. I can't wait to get my box tomorrow and take a look at that and show everybody those amazing flowers. So take care, be good, be safe, and thank you again.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Here's I can leave you with a view of our other patch of distant drums that are going right now.
It's an amazing variety. It really is.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can do it again once once everything is blooming and we can show you a little more inside of our processing barn and show a little more of what we do here.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.